Hi guys, this is Mac with Apollo Scooters, and today we're going to take you through how to get started with your brand new Apollo Pro. Now this video is actually not intended to go into any of the technical details, such as tightening your suspension, adjusting your brakes, or measuring the voltage output of your battery. We've actually taken care of all of these things during our pre-shipping inspection. So what this video is really just a quick setup guide to show you how to make the most out of your Apollo Pro before you go on your first ride. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you receive your Apollo Pro is figure out how to unfold it. Now, with the Apollo Pro, that tends to be a little bit tricky simply because of the number of design precautions that are built into this scooter to make sure that your stem is secured. The first thing you want to do is make sure you've removed all the tape and the wrapping that secures the scooter during shipping. And when you do so, you just want to give it a nice little grip here and lift it up. So as you can see, what's going to happen is you're going to reach a degree of resistance here. You cannot push the stem of the scooter past this point. Now this is how you know you've reached the right spot. So what you want to do next is you want to grab this ring that you can see slides up and down and push it down all the way to the bottom until you hear it click. Now it's very important that you do not leave this ring stuck here, because as you can see, it has not reached its full position at the bottom there yet. So you want to give it that extra push, hear that click, and make sure it's fully secured until that ring is touching the base of the neck right here. All right, so now you can see that the neck of the scooter is actually fixed in place. It's quite firm already, but of course, the second layer of security are these two clamps right here. So right now, as you can tell, they're quite loose and you can open them and close them with quite a bit of ease. So what you want to do is you just want to give them a bit of a twist and make sure you tighten these screws on the other side. So right now, I'm turning them away from me. I'm turning them forwards to tighten them a little bit more. And when I do that, you'll notice that there's actually a bit more resistance when you open and close the clamps. So we're getting closer, give it a couple more twists until you feel it's getting a little bit more difficult. And when you get to that point, that's how you know you've reached the final stage of the adjustments. Now, once you start to feel a lot of resistance and you cannot turn the screws anymore, you can feel the clamps are moving with a lot more difficulty back and forth. That's the resistance you want to feel in order to secure your scooter. So you can actually see that the bottom one's still a little bit loose. So I'm going to tighten it a little bit further. And now, yes, now we're getting that resistance I was talking about. And you can see it's quite hard to push it in. And there we go. Now both are nice and tight, and your entire stem, as well as the neck of the scooter, are nicely secured in place. So you can see there is very little wobble, close to none, and it's very firmly attached to the neck of the scooter. All right, so just to recap, because this is truly a critical point, make sure that the base of this folding mechanism has reached the top of this ring right here. We don't want any space in between these two, otherwise your neck will not be properly secured in place and you will risk the scooter folding in half while you're riding it. So if you feel you cannot push it down any further, you really want to give it a couple of extra pushes, then hit it a few times, make sure it's really reached the base of the scooter, and only then secure the clamps to make sure that you're all set up. All right, so the next question is obviously, how do we unfold the scooter? And the short answer is we simply reverse the process. So to do so, you simply open up the clamps, and once they are open, you may want to loosen up the screws a little bit just to make it a bit easier for yourself. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually unscrewing the screws in the back, and then you can see I'm also wiggling the clamps in the front. Okay, so once you've loosened both the top and the bottom clamps, what you want to do is you basically want to give this guy a gentle push up, like so, and the neck folds right away. So you can see I actually made a mistake. I wasn't holding the neck before I started to move the base up. So right now, even though there's a bit of a space there, you can see the neck is still fairly secure. So you just give it a gentle push up and the whole thing starts to fall down. So just be careful when you do that. Great, now let's take a look at how to charge your Apollo Pro. So the first thing you want to do is you obviously want to locate the charging ports, which in the case of the Apollo Pro are on the top right side of the base. So you can see you've got two of these guys right here, and they're protected by these waterproof caps. So you just want to pop them off, make sure the ports are ready to go. The question we get a lot is, does it matter which port I use? The short answer is no. They're only there in case you have two chargers and you're looking to cut down on the charge time, but otherwise it really does not matter which charging port you use. So you want to grab your charger and the cable that it comes with in the box, pop this guy open, and what you'll find is you have the adapter with the part that plugs into the scooter, as well as the cable that goes into the wall. So you can see this part will plug right into here, and your charger is fully assembled. Now, the best practice we often share with our customers is go ahead and plug this into the wall first, and then plug it into the scooter. Now, it may sound a bit counterintuitive, but the reason we recommend that is actually to avoid sparking. What you'll notice is that your charger actually comes with 3 holes that align with the 3 pins that you can see in your charging ports. So when it is time to charge and you're ready to give it a little juice up, make sure you align the 3 pins like I am doing here. And what you'll see is that your charger actually comes with a little LED light. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but right now this light is green. Now, if the charger was plugged into the wall properly and the other end was plugged into the scooter, this light would actually be red when the scooter is not 100% charged. When it does become fully charged, it's at 100% capacity, this light will turn green. That's your signal to, the green light here is the signal to unplug your charger because your scooter is fully charged. Now, rest assured, your scooter does come with something called a battery management system, which features a number of smart functions like overcharging protection. So if you are going to plug it in overnight and then go to sleep for, let's say, 8 hours, and your scooter will be full after, let's say, 4 hours, it's okay to leave it plugged in for that extra 4 hours before you wake up in the morning and unplug it. However, if you are going on vacation for 2 weeks, we do not recommend leaving this guy plugged in, as that amount of overcharging can be damaging to the battery. So just be cautious and use common sense. So another question we get a lot is, how do I inflate my tires? And what you want to do is you want to locate the valve, the air valve, which in the case of the Apollo Pro is on the left side of the front wheel right here. And then you proceed to remove the cap, and there's your valve fully ready to attach the air pump to. So you just want to go ahead and give it a go. One important comment here is that we recommend pumping these tires up to 50 PSI. That is the recommended air pressure that we can get behind. And a lot of customers don't follow that. They actually go ahead and overinflate the tire. And I wanted to mention that the most common and frequent cause of flat tires is overinflation. So if you are looking to avoid getting flats, we recommend sticking to that 50 PSI mark and not going over that. All right, let's quickly get into one more question that we get a lot, which is, how do I tighten or loosen my suspension? So you can see that your suspension spring is located in the front here, and then there's a back one obviously in the back. And an important note here is that you can actually rotate this spring. So we usually recommend not doing this by hand, as it's quite difficult. You want to get a tool that you can fit right around the base here and then turn it either left or right. So if you are looking to make the suspension tighter, what you want to do is you want to compress the spring. So you want to turn it right, you want to turn it clockwise. If you want to loosen the spring, you will want to make it longer. You want to give it a bit more room to absorb those shocks. And of course, that is the opposite action you want to take. So you want to turn it left, and that would be counterclockwise. Now, really quickly, what is the difference between a tight and a loose suspension? Well, the most obvious difference that comes to mind is really when you are going at high speeds, you want your suspension to be really tight, because should you hit a pothole or a bump, a loose suspension is just going to throw you off your scooter and you're going to go flying. So that can be quite dangerous. So keep that in mind. And if you do plan on using your scooter at high speeds a lot, make sure your suspension is a bit tighter. If you want to be comfortable at lower speeds, you can make it a bit more loose. By default, the Apollo Pros come with a medium suspension. So it's right in the middle here. It's not too loose, not too tight. It's kind of the average setting, if you will. Okay, so now the next thing you want to do is attach your handlebar. And by default, you can see it comes with this plate attached by 4 screws to the top of the stem. And what you want to use is actually the toolkit that comes in your scooter box. So let's go ahead and pull it out of the little bag. So the Allen key you want to choose is actually the 4th smallest, or the 3rd largest, I suppose. And you want to unscrew all 4 of these guys one at a time. All right, so you can see I've removed all 4 of these screws and the plate is ready to come off. So we're just gonna put these guys aside for now. And what you wanna do is you wanna grab your handlebar, and you can see right now it's actually flipped the opposite way. So you just wanna give this guy a nice twist, make sure it comes into the right position. And it's very important that the cables actually go on the outside. So you wanna make sure that the cables are staying outside and not getting caught up somewhere behind the handlebar or maybe underneath it. Now, once your handlebar is more or less in place, you want to pop the plate back onto here and then start putting the screws back in. Now, this can be a little bit finicky, so if you have a friend or a family member that can just hold it in place for you, that'll go a long way in making this easier. If not, you can just struggle by yourself for a little longer until you get all the screws in. Okay, so as soon as you get some traction with one screw, you can just let go. The whole thing's not going to fall apart. And then you want to get another screw, and maybe let's go diagonal like so. And just get this guy in. Okay, once you see that the handlebar is starting to get a little tight, you kind of want to pick it up and put it back into position where you feel it's comfortable for you. All right, so that would be good for me. And we're just gonna start going a little bit harder now. We're gonna tighten these screws now that we get some resistance. So you can see already with just 2 screws, it's quite firmly locked into place. But of course, we're gonna go ahead and put the remaining 2 screws in as well. All right, so there's the handlebar. It's nice and firm, it's fixed in place, it's not moving at all. Just make sure you align it and it's in the middle before you screw all the screws in. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Now, what we want to take a look at is all these loose things on your handlebar and how do we actually go about tightening them up. Okay, so we're going to start with the left side of the handlebar or your right side of the handlebar because there is much less going on here. So it's just going to be a bit faster to get this side cleaned up. Okay, so what we have going on here is your left brake handle as well as the Eco Turbo single dual buttons. So you can see, as I mentioned, they're both super loose. And again, the reason everything is kind of loose and wobbly, when we ship things, we actually leave everything on the handlebar loose on purpose so that should there be any impact to the package, to the box, nothing's going to break. If anything, things are just going to shuffle and move around. And that way you actually get your package nicely intact. But of course, you want to make sure everything is securely locked into place before you go out riding. So let's go ahead and do that. And the first thing you actually want to attach is the button handle right here. And the reason we want to attach it first is because there is actually a screw in the back. And so if we attach the brake first, it's going to make it more difficult for us to access the screw in the back of this button panel right here. Let's flip the brake back for a second and uncover the screw that we're going to use to tighten this entire panel right here. You can see it's right here. And what you want to use is one of the Allen keys to just give this guy a nice twist until everything locks into place, like so. So you can see I'm just accessing it while lifting up the hydraulic brake handle and the buttons are nicely locked into place. This feels comfortable, this feels good, so let's move on. Next up is the hydraulic brake handle. The tricky thing about this is that you want to account for your own height while standing on top of the scooter. Right now I'm actually standing on the ground, so yeah, this feels comfortable, but once I actually step onto the base of the scooter, my angle changes. And I know this from experience, but I'm actually going to prefer having this handle lower at a slightly different angle than if I were standing on the ground. So knowing that, I'm going to grab the larger Allen key, and all I'm going to do is just tighten this screw right here. So keeping in mind that angle, the slightly lower position of the brake handle, this feels good to me. And there we go. Everything is nicely secured into place and not really wobbling around anymore. Cool, let's move on to the other side. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the right side of the handlebar. And as you can see, we have the key ignition that is very loose right here. We have the throttle mechanism right here. And we have our hydraulic brake latch right here. So we're actually gonna get started with this key ignition for the same reason that we did the button panel first on the other side, which is that if we were to secure the brake first, we wouldn't be able to access the back screw on this guy. So yeah, just make sure it's comfortable, make sure it's close by to your thumb. And you can see that there's actually a base plate that it attaches to. So just give it a nice push and lock it into place with that base plate. And then you want to locate the smaller Allen key. And as you can see, there is actually a little screw in the back right here. And what you can do is slide your Allen key in, give this guy a few twists, and make sure it's nicely attached to your handlebar like so. There we go. Next up, what you want to do is you want to get your handlebar in a good position. So similar principles as before, you want to stand on the scooter first and feel that the angle is right. You will change between standing on the ground and standing on a scooter as you will become a little bit taller. The other consideration you want to keep in mind is actually not placing the throttle too close to the brake. Now, the reason we recommend not putting them closely together is because there will be instances when you're accelerating and your finger just wraps a bit further along, and before you know it, it might get stuck behind the brake. Now that can be quite dangerous if you want to let go of the throttle, but you can see my fingers stuck behind the brake latch, so that's not ideal. For that reason, we actually recommend creating a bit of separation between the two, and it's okay if this brake latch is a bit more difficult to access. It's your front brake, so you're not going to be using it as the primary brake anyway. That's what your left brake is for, your rear brake. That way, you can actually create a bit of separation, make it a bit more difficult to access, but that's okay as long as you have full control over your throttle, like so. All right, cool. So let's tighten up our brake handle. So we're gonna go back to the same Allen key we were using before, and it is the third largest once again, and just give this guy a couple of twists. Cool. Okay, and last but not least, you want to tighten your throttle as well. So we're gonna go with the third smallest Allen key for that, and you just want to make sure that you tighten the bottom 2 screws. The top 2 are already tightened. It's just the bottom 2 that are loose right now. So we're going to tighten these guys up like so. Okay, so let's quickly go through how the Pro actually works and what are your controls, what are your features. So you can see on the left-hand side, as we previously mentioned, you have the Eco, Turbo, Single, and Dual button panel. Now, each one of these buttons does something different. The Eco and Turbo is actually simply controlling the amount of amps that flow through the controller. And so that in Eco, it's slightly lower, it's more conservative, you go slower, but you preserve the battery life. In Turbo, it's obviously more, it's higher. You get that extra boost, that extra speed, but you do drain the battery faster. One setting we find ourselves using more often than not is actually the Single and Dual motor. So Single activates the rear motor, Dual activates both the rear and the front motors. For us, most of the time when riding the Pro, one motor is enough. We do like to have the dual mode on when we go uphill or when we go off-roading, but for most cases of city riding, single motor is perfectly fine and more than enough. On the right-hand side, what we have is actually the key ignition. So you can see when I do turn it, we see the voltage display right here, which indicates that the scooter is ready to power on. And to turn it off, you simply flip the key the opposite way. So let's give this guy a go and power on the display. All right, so to power on the display, you want to press and hold the on and off button, and you can see the display comes on. And what you see is a couple of critical pieces of information, so let's quickly go through it. At the very top, we have our gears. We're currently in gear 1, and what gears do is they actually limit your top speed. So depending on which modes you're going to be, Eco, Turbo, Single, Dual, gears 1, 2, and 3 will have different top speed limits. So we recommend just playing with it, feeling out what feels right for you, But again, what you want to use them for is really just to limit your top speed. But what you want to use them for is just really to limit your top speed. Below we have your speed per hour. So currently it's measured in kilometers per hour. There's a separate video that we'll link below that shows you how to switch to miles per hour. Below that we have the odometer measured in kilometers per hour. Again, also available in miles per hour. And below that we have our battery, which is currently around 80% full. So what can we do with this display? If you want to cycle through the different types of information that the scooter collects about your ride, you simply press the on and off button once, and you can see it switched from odometer to trip. The difference between odometer and trip is that odometer measures the total distance traveled in the lifespan of your scooter, while trip measures the total distance traveled on a single trip. So if you power your scooter off and back on, you'll see that the trip actually resets. Next up, we have the voltage. So we're currently at 54.5, which roughly corresponds to what we're seeing on this display right here. And we also know that correlates to about 80% of the battery being full. If we hit it again, we're back to odometer. So we've cycled through all the settings. Now let's move on to mode. And all that's happening when I press these buttons is we're just cycling through the gears. So again, if you press once more, you see we go back to 1, 2, 3, back to 1. So you can just cycle through these 3 whenever you please. It's okay to do that while riding too. One thing we will mention is what you don't want to do is actually you do not want to switch from dual motor to single motor while riding at high speeds. Going from dual to single motor is the same thing as going from third to second gear while riding a manual car at high speed. What the motor will do is essentially just start braking, and that can be dangerous when riding on 2 wheels instead of 4. So going back to this display though, the last thing I want to mention is just how to power on the lights. And to do so, you just press and hold the mode button until this little icon, the light icon, comes on. To power them off, you press and hold again until it switches off. And voila, that's about it. To power off your scooter, you press and hold this guy. And that is everything there is to know about the Apollo Pro. All right, thanks very much, guys. We appreciate your time. If you have any additional questions about how to make the most out of if you want to know any specifics about the technicalities of our pre-inspection, or if you just want to go over and above and get some insight into how the scooter works and whatnot, we're always happy to chat. Feel free to leave us a comment below or give us a shout through our website or contact us at our support email listed in the description below. Thanks very much.